بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So today we're gathering here, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We've left some of our comfort to come here because we realize that we have a crisis. We have a huge disaster, a calamity that befell some of our brothers and sisters in a different corner of the world. But because we have a basic fundamental principle that we are one single united ummah, we care, and therefore we're here. The massacres has been happening, the tragedy, the killings, the murder, the rape, the kidnapping, the destruction have been overwhelming. What's been happening in Syria in general, and specifically in Halab, and what happened previously in Homs, have been historical devastations on a magnitude that's never been seen before. People talk about World War II and Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but we talk today about Syria. Before, it was Bosnia. When I was young, it was Bosnia. Magnitudes of murder, rape, sieges, things that remind you from history to the times of the Mongols. Things that the human being cannot even fathom to believe it happened on Earth, on this planet that we live in. People can't even believe that these acts have happened from human beings, let alone shayateen. So the question is why, and the question is what do we do about this? This is what we're going to deal with in this specific lecture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us why He allows calamities. Some people, because of their weakness in Iman, start questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom. Why is this happening? And some other ones basically go to the other extreme and say, listen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed this, so therefore we should be happy. And for sure both extremes are wrong. And the answer is somewhere in between. The answer is that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills to be destined upon us is actually good. But our own actions, or sometimes more importantly, our inactions would be our own devastations, our own sins, our own evil, things that we do with our own hands, or let alone things that we don't do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً ونمكن لهم في الأرض ونري فرعون وهامان وجنودهما منهم ما كانوا يحذرون. It's a powerful ayah. It's a powerful ayah that brings joy but brings tears. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that calamities like this that strikes a whole communities, oppression and tyranny, enslavement of huge communities. Today, the whole Syrian people, over 26 million people, 1 million dead, few million wounded, and prisoners are in jails and tortured. 5 million have been displaced to outside Syria, 11 million displaced inside. What has been left from the total population? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of His hikmas, so we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, that He's creating new leaders for humanity. New leaders from this ummah. In a similar way where diamonds are the result of long, prolonged periods of ultimate pressure inside the crust of earth, of carbon material, that generates diamond, the best, the hardest of the stones, the most beautiful and the most precious of the stones. Similarly, the iman, the pure iman of people would be the result of a fitna of that magnitude, of a pressure that's applied for a long period of time that would create a diamond level of iman in those people. Now, am I saying this basically out of theory? Or can we see it, touch it, feel it in the practice? We've seen the brothers and the sisters coming out of Aleppo after 5 years of hunger, of torture, of bombings. All types of bombs have been used, things that are against international law. A law that's been set by man, broken by man, belittled by man, but enforced upon the Muslimin. Cluster bombs, phosphorus bombs, all type of bombs, chemical weapons have been used upon civilians in the land of As-Sham. But people cannot recognize. You'd think that if you were there, you would want to leave, escape, run with your kids to safety. But these people insisted on staying. The people of Halab knew things that were coming. The people of Halab are 40 kilometers away from the Turkish border. But they made a conscientious decision to stay and struggle for Islam. You ask the people, the average man, why are you there? Why didn't you leave? You saw it coming? They said, we want to stay to make the word of Allah supreme. When they were interviewed with the buses, those few thousand of people that left Aleppo just recently were interviewed by Al Jazeera. And the video I posted in my Facebook post. They were asking them, so how do you feel now? They were crying. Why were they crying? They were crying that they left and they swore by Allah that they will never belittle and betray Islam and come back, inshaAllah, to create the victory for the ummah.
Ameen.
This is the type of people that basically have been the result of this oppression. There's a second reason. The second reason is لِيُمَحِّصَ اللَّهِ التمحيص. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala differentiates between the believers and the munafiqeen. And I'm going to remind you with a story that is in Surah Al-Baqarah about Talut and Jalut. Talut was the king that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have set for the people. And he started his journey to open Jerusalem by the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's taken with him 70,000 soldiers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he labeled the crowds that was with Jalut at the beginning, he said Junud, the word Junud. He says the soldiers. He went with a bunch of soldiers, Allah's soldiers. Now, do we know if these soldiers were real believers? Do we know if they're salihin? Do we know if they're munafiqeen? We don't know. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested them. He told them that inna Allah mubtalikum binahar. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test you with a river after this long journey where everybody have been thirsty and they didn't have enough water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to test them with something that might go against their rational mind. You know, if you're going to go and get into a large battle against people that you know were humongous, better prepared, better armored, have better capacity in their own home court, well, you better basically be 100%. You know, a thirsty soldier is not a good soldier, is it? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ibtala, wanted to test the iman of these people, to choose the believers and filter them from the munafiqeen. So he told them, do not drink from that river except if you really, really insist, غرفة بيده. Meaning just basically literally a handful of water. That's all, a couple of gulps. Now most people, how did they rationalize this order? They're like, listen, man, I'm scared for my life. I fear for my life. If I don't drink, I'm gonna die. We're going into this area that we don't know who's in it, and it's a tough enemy and so forth. I'm not gonna take the risks. It doesn't make sense. It's not wise to do this. Talut, what are you doing? Inna Allah made the order. Al-ibtila didn't come from Talut. Talut is not the Lord. Allah is the Lord of the universe. And when He makes an order, a real believer submits to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happened? Most of them rationalized the issue, said we cannot defeat them without drinking, therefore we have to drink. So they drank. And He did not allow those who did drink water more than a handful to go with them. And the athar, the hadith say basically from the 70,000 army, maybe a couple thousand left. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did He term these people? He termed الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. Those who believed with Talut continued the journey. So those few, qalil. Those qalil in the ayah continued with Talut. So they get to the place of the battle. What happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala filters them another time. Because He wants, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives victory, He gives it for those who deserve it. Not for the cowards, not for the hypocrites. Those who can stand up with their heads high and in submission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when they got there late, after a long journey, no water. Imagine yourself being tested, and what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them that you need to now basically go into Jerusalem now. What did some of these people say? They're believers. Now we're talking about some believers, but now weak iman. So first you filtered the hypocrites. Secondly, now you're going to filter, even if they are believers, those with the weak iman. What did they say? لا طاقة لنا اليوم بجالوت وجنوده. Today, just today, they're believers. They're like, okay, we understand, this is a command, we need to follow it. But can't we just wait till tomorrow? We just want to have a rest. Yani we traveled all this time. This is اليوم لا طاقة لنا اليوم. They're like, just today, let's just have one day rest. Tomorrow we'll be up and running, we'll be strong, we'll be ready, and we will be able to defeat the enemy of Allah. But Allah had a different plan. That did not basically make sense to the people. And only basically few. The numbers basically is from the Athar is 300, like Badr. One of them was Dawood alayhi salam. فَهَزَمُوهُمْ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. So from 70,000, 300 did the job. Because the victory is from who? وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. The article ما is حرف للعموم والنفي. فما النافية says وَمَا النَّصْرُ. There is nothing of النصر except from Allah. إلا تدخل أداة الاستثناء على أداة العموم النافية فتحدث إيش في اللغة العربية؟ حصرا وقصرا في اللغة. Meaning basically, if an exception enters with an article of general negation, you are specifying that there's only one and only one in the universe of that thing. Whatever you're talking about. So, La ilaha illallah means there is no God that is true except only one true God, and that is Allah. So there is no other true gods. There's only one. Victory is only from Allah. There's no victory from you. There's no victory from the human being. You can prepare as much as you want, but there's no victory except from Allah, and the victory of Allah is not achieved except through the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the biggest calamity that we have as Muslimin, is that we cannot recognize, we cannot believe. Some has diseases in the hearts and are hypocrites. Some have weaker iman, and they just cannot basically move with the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why are we saying this? Because we're saying this, one of the issues that Sheikh Rasoul talked about today, is that people say, well, we can't do it, we can't, the Muslimin around them are too weak to support them. Well, the 300 with Talut were also weak. I mean, Dawood alayhi salam had a slingshot, didn't he? How was Jalut, this humongous fighter, armored with iron from head to toe? But when Allah gives victory, no armor can basically shield anybody. But that's it. This is the basics of La ilaha illallah. Until us as an ummah have this yaqeen, we will move nowhere. The other issue is basically understanding the background of this conflict. Most people follow the mainstream media, which is controlled by the Western countries, and they think that the United States is supporting the rebels. The United States is against the Assad regime, as they say. But for sure, basically, one of the purposes of this revolution and one of the purposes of these calamities is فضح النفاق, is to expose hypocrisy and expose the lies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَكَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ وَلِتَسْتَبِينَ سَبِيلُ الْمُجْرِمِينَ. We will basically detail our signs to humanity. We will detail our signs to the people. We will explain our ayat to everybody until istibana, that the path of the criminals, the mujrimeen, the criminals, the disbelievers, the enemies of Allah, becomes apparent, becomes clear-cut. Because people can't differentiate who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? Who's betraying the ummah? Who's the enemy of the ummah? Who's the friend of the ummah? Who's supporting the ummah? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue to filter us and filter us and filter us until these sides are clear. This is the side of nifaq, and this is the side of iman. And this came from the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not an interpretation of a scholar. A hadith that was narrated by Abu Dawood, والترمذي, وإمام أحمد, وأبو نعيم في الحلية, والحاكم في المستدرك, says at the end of times there will be calamities. There will be bad calamities, bleak calamities, until يكونوا فسطاطان. There will be two groups of people. فسطاط نفاق لا إيمان فيه. There will be a category of people of nifaq, there is no iman in it. وفسطاط إيمان لا نفاق فيه. And there will be a category of people that are believers with no nifaq in their hearts. May Allah make us from them, inshallah. Ameen. So the calamities are going to continue and continue and continue. Like any type of chemical process or industrial process that utilizes pressure and heat until the material is purified. Allah wants purification of the iman. And this is also narrated in another hadith from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about Fadail As-Sham. He says, ألا وإن الإيمان حينما تنزل الفتن في الشام. He says, indeed, the real, clear, pure iman, the iman, he called it the iman, meaning the proper iman, the full and complete iman. When will you see it at the end of times? When the calamities hit As-Sham. And we see the calamities in the Sham. And we see the calamities in the Sham. Now, whether you're living in Sham or not, you are being filtered. What you're doing is making you either in this camp or that camp. This is the true story of life. This is the basic reality of the end of times. The reality of the fitan. There are 7 billion people. The amount of murder and killings in the world has been so much. And this is one of the prophecies of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. يكثر الهرج, meaning basically the killings, the indiscriminate killings and murder. Kids, children, innocent people. Doesn't matter who, ladies, women, elderlies, people in hospitals. People in hospitals are being targeted. The Russians targeted all the hospitals in Halab and in Idlib. So what is our response? What is the solution? If Sheikh Rasoul, one of the brothers told me, you know, Sheikh Rasoul didn't leave anything that we do except he slam dunked it. So what do we do, ya akhi? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. That the Rasul is our best of examples. واليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي. Today I have completed my blessings upon you and have perfected your deen. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. And I was pleased with Islam being your final decreed way of life from your creator. This is your final manual. There's no more versions. There's no more versions 2.0, 2.3, 3.0. This is your last manual that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have sent to humanity. It is complete and perfected. So what did the Rasul do in such a situation? What is the solution for Aleppo? There is only one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِنِ اسْتَنصَرُوكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ فَعَلَيْكُمُ النَّصْرِ. If they ask you for victory, for support, because they're persecuted because of their Islam, then it is a must upon you to support them and help them and make them victorious and defend them and defend their honor and defend their dignity. It's not an option. Who said basically it's an option? We put $10 in the people ask, where's the Syria box? Put $10 and alhamdulillah. Did this support them? Did this basically defend them? Did this prevent the killings and the murder and the rape? Did this basically break the siege? No, it didn't. What would? There's one thing that would. The people who has the ability to stop the murder are the ones who basically are required to move. And these are basically the armies of the Muslim world around Syria. And you can go as around as you want. The armies of the Muslimin are supposed to move. Because us as laymen, we cannot do much. Yes, you put that $10, you put that $50, you put that $100. You put whatever dollars. You send them water and shirts and covers and pillows. You send whatever you want to send. When your sisters are being raped, they don't want your water and shirts and covers, Habibi. They've been calling wa mu'tasimah for 6 years and there's no mu'tasim. Ya akhi, they understood there's no mu'tasim. They called wa islamah. They called you by your Islam. But no response. So the obligation of the ummah is to move its resources to defend them. And if these resources are for any reason is locked, you and every single Muslim on earth, it's an obligation upon you to try your best and work to make these locks broken. Now, did the Rasul do this? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? He did. Now, the thing is, we read the seerah, but we read it quick. Or we read it as a bedtime story. Do we read it to actually follow it? What did the Rasul do? His Sahaba were locked. His Sahaba were tortured. His Sahaba were died under torture. Sumayya, Yasir, Khabbab, Bilal. They were persecuted for years and years. What did he do? He started a charity fund. He sat there and did dua. He might have, for sure he have done dua. And he might have basically maybe asked for people to, he asked Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq went and gave his charity to remove Bilal from his torture. He donated lots of money, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. But was that the only thing they did? Do all that. Keep doing your charity work. Keep doing your dua. It's a must. It's not a dua wajib. But you still need to do what solves the problem. And the Rasul ﷺ, when he sent Mus'ab bin Umair to Yathrib, you know what Mus'ab have done? Mus'ab bin Umair, did he basically continue in Yathrib doing da'wah, street da'wah day and night? Now who was the first person who did khutbah al-Jum'ah? Who've done Jum'ah the first? Rasulullah was Mus'ab bin Umair. The first Imam of Jum'ah was Mus'ab bin Umair in Yathrib. Before the Hijrah. Before the Hijrah. How many people basically did he gather at most in his Jum'ah? All the Muslimin of Yathrib came and prayed. It wasn't the tens of people. The hadith al-Sihah tells us that a person or two from every tribe or every sub-tribe in Yathrib became Muslim. But was that the plan, or did the Rasul give him another plan? The Rasul gave him another plan. You know what he did? He told him, he's like, you do da'wah as much as you can, but you make sure that you do da'wah to those who are influentials in society. Because they are the, as they're called today in marketing, the movers and the shakers. So he told As'ad bin Zurara radiallahu anh, which was one of the 6 people that accepted Islam by the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a Hajj or 2 before this incident. He told me, As'ad, where do we basically go for? Who's the influentials? How can we get in touch with them? And As'ad said, don't worry. I have a person that if you convert to Islam, the whole Medina will be Muslim. And that was his cousin. His cousin, Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, radiyallahu anhu, Sayyid al-Aws, the leader of the Aws. He's the one that basically when he died after Al-Khandaq, Allah's throne subhanahu wa ta'ala shook because of his death, because of his level and his status in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes. He changed, you're Muslim today, all of you are because of Sa'd and because of Mus'ab. Because Sa'd was the mover and the shaker. So Mus'ab bin Umair went and targeted having a conversation with Sa'd bin Mu'adh until Sa'd converted to Islam. And you know what he did next? He went to his tribe, he called everybody in an emergency town hall meeting. He's like, oh my people, listen, I'm going to be very frank. You guys like me as a leader? He's like, we love you. It's like, if I decide a matter, do you follow it? We will follow it. It's like, I'm not going to look into your face until you become Muslim. The whole Hayy min al-Aws qala ash-shahada. The whole tribe said, La ilaha illallah. Right there and then. The Medina, the Yathrib, the Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became Muslim because of Sa'd bin Mu'adh and Sa'd bin Ubadah and Usayd bin Hudayr. Because the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a plan from Allah. He didn't go rationalize things. Well, you know what, we're too weak now. I think we should just join them. If you know, they say if you can't beat them, join them. Let's just join them right now. Let's just buddy up with the mushrikeen. Yeah, and let's not kind of insult their idols too much. Yeah, until we become a little bit more stronger. Let's focus, inshallah, on this type of da'wah. We'll do some charity work. We'll help the Rasulullah didn't do this. The Rasulullah basically obeyed his Lord. Ya ayyuhal muddathir qum fa'andir. He started his da'wah. فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرْ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. He started his challenging of social orders in his society. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to go and seek the influentials of the tribes in Arabia. Imam Ibn Kathir narrated a hadith by Ali bin Abi Talib that was narrated by Abi Nu'aym in Al-Hilya, Hilyat al-Awliya, in a hadith sahih. Says, لَمَّا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ نَبِيَّهُ أَنْ يَعْرِضَ نَفْسَهُ عَلَى الْقَبَائِلِ. He says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered his prophet to go and start meeting the influentials of the tribes so he can get support and implement Islam and defend the Muslimin, he went with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Ali and started basically his tour. Especially he targeted the tribes when they came to Al-Hajj. So this is in short what the Muslim Ummah is supposed to be doing. Dua is fard. Charity in this case is fard. Charity in this case, you have to give as much as you can to support your brothers and sisters. But at the end of the day, this is not the only things that you have to do. You have to basically seek the proper cause for the proper effect. وَإِن تَنْصُرُوا اللَّهِ يَنْصُرْكُمْ. If you give victory to Allah by obeying Him and fulfilling His plan, not your plan. You might want to drink from the river, but Allah does not want you to drink from the river. Allah wants you to basically go into battle with the Philistines of the time on that day, not in the next day. It is not up to you to rationalize. And this is the essence of nifaq today. Nifaq or misunderstanding. As you can see, basically, there's believers who went with Talut, but still they rationalized. We have to stop rationalizing because we need to believe for real that our deen is complete, and every solution for any and every question is in the Quran and Sunnah. I'll leave you with that, inshallah, and we'll take up some of your questions in the Q&A. Jazakumullah khair for listening. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the whole ummah victorious. Wa sallallahu ala Rasoul al-Kareem wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.